Hey guys, Nikhil here. In this video, I'll break down how to record podcasts in every different level of budget. Let's get started. One of the most common formats of content is podcasts, which are trending a lot in India and the US, everywhere. I've actually done a detailed breakdown of why podcasts are becoming so popular and beating down traditional media. And in this video, I'll tell you what are the different ways of recording podcasts, what are some tips, tricks to step up your production quality, and how do you gradually increase the production quality as you start getting a lot of reach, making money from it, etc. Let's start with the most basic podcast recording. In my opinion, the simplest thing you can start with is using a software like Zoom, Google Meet, or Microsoft Teams and recording a conversation with you and another guest. If you're doing a solo podcast, just use a video recorder app on your laptop or on your desktop. And you can start with something as simple as that. You don't need anything else. A simple start is enough. If you're starting from nothing, just start doing this. Now over here, few things you have to keep in mind, that one of the simplest ways of getting better audio quality if you're recording on your laptop is use a pair of wired earphones. And if you're recording on your smartphone, use a voice recorder app on your smartphone. You will be surprised how good the mic is on your smartphone. It'll be absolutely stunning. You can start with something as simple as that. Now, once you want to step up your production quality, maybe you want to add a better video output, maybe you want to add a better audio output, maybe you want to get some kind of dynamism into the podcast. I would suggest, if you're doing a single person recording, use a simple software like OBS. Install it on your Mac or on your PC. Learn how to use the software, it's free. Either you'll find a tutorial on YouTube or we'll put up a tutorial on our channel. And a simple software like OBS is enough to just do a simple recording, but with some more control. When I say control, say you want to share your screen, add some graphics, add some elements, add some GIFs, all those things can be done on OBS. And then you can push it to a video editing software. Another online alternative for OBS is one which I like a lot, is called StreamYard. I'll link StreamYard in the description. Some similar softwares like StreamYard, Riverside, Restream, all of these in different UI and UX basically function in the same way. They are an online recording software, and the advantage for this is you can go live as well if you want to do a live show. Now we'll do a detailed video on how to use these live streaming softwares, to do subscribe for that. So basic is your simple recording video on a software like Zoom if you have 2% podcast, or OBS if it's a single person podcast. Using a wired mic is always recommended. That will step up the quality a lot. Or if you can't do that, just use the mic on your smartphone. Now for video, if you want to step up your quality immediately, use your smartphone's camera. Generally speaking, your smartphone camera is gonna take you a far way. If you're on an Android phone or on iPhone, download this app called Camo, C-A-M-O. If you're on Android, you can plug in the smartphone into your laptop, a Mac or a PC, and then run Camo on your phone and run Camo on your laptop, and it'll actually take your phone's camera as a recording input. So simple way of stepping up your audio quality, your video quality. Now once all of this is done, you get a taste for podcasts. Maybe you want to move to a studio setup like the one I have here. So what do you do then? Normally speaking, I would not suggest starting any podcast by investing heavily in big studio equipment, because it gets expensive. We've been fortunate that because we provide this service, we've been able to fund a lot of the equipment we own. But if you do want to get into a more mediocre production, is what I like to call it, then you can move to a 2-camera studio setup. You have 2 good cameras. They can even be your smartphone cameras to start with, or you can have 2 DSLR cameras. Even if it's a single person podcast, if it's a multi-person podcast, point the 2 cameras to 2 different people. If it's single person podcast, just have 2 separate angles. Set it up in a well-lit room. When you're starting off, you shouldn't be investing in a lot of lighting equipment. I would suggest just record the podcast around afternoon time and sit opposite to a window. I know I'm giving all these hacks, but that's how you start. And then once you want to step up your game, I would suggest purchasing some lights first instead of upgrading your cameras. Trust me, a low budget camera or a smartphone camera will take you a long way if you have very good light sources. So I would suggest buying at the very least Godox SL60W lights, 2 or 3 of them, with some good diffusion. That's exactly the setup we use. And then investing in some simple mics like the one I have here. This may seem like an expensive mic, it's not. It's about 3,000 rupees. And this directly goes into my laptop. So I record whatever input you're seeing on my laptop. It gives very crisp audio, and the video you're listening to, it's a simple DSLR camera with very good Godox 60W lights. If you have guests who will be coming to your podcast, I would suggest initially you continue doing these recordings online with your guests. Once you can afford it, then invest in a studio space, rent it out, invest in some good furniture, some good backdrop, etc. And then you step up to the high production level. So what's the high production level? High production, you have multiple cameras, 4 to 5 cameras. You have multiple audio inputs. So like this, you will have 3-4 different mics. There's many brands, Rode, Shure. We'll create separate lists for that. And then all of this go into a mixer first. A mixer takes multiple camera inputs, multiple audio inputs, and then it gives a single feed to your recording device. Sometimes the mixers itself have a recording option. Sometimes you can record it on your laptop. And this is your highest production setup. Over here, there's no upper limit. You can spend as much as you want. If you tell me I have $1 million budget, I'll tell you it's less, because I have seen cameras worth more than $10 million, depending on the focus. The idea here is this: don't upgrade production very rapidly. Do it gradually and do it only when it is necessary. A simple example is one of the world's most popular podcasts is the Joe Rogan podcast. I think they have stuck to pretty much the same setup for quite some time now because it works. In the YouTube world and in the content world, their higher production does not mean higher views or higher reach. What really matters is the content, is your stories, is your experience. And in that scenario, get your production to a level where you're comfortable, where it is not a distraction for you. That's my main suggestion, that your production shouldn't bother you. If it starts bothering you, you're diverging from content, from the ideas, from your stories and from your experiences. And that's where the podcast format will start failing. I hope this video helped. I think it gives you a framework of thinking. Basic, mediocre and advanced. The advanced is the highest production setup, having mixers, having multicams, having to hire people to manage equipment. For instance, we use a Blackmagic mixer, and to learn how to use that took a lot of time. Right? So keep these things in mind as you're planning a podcast for yourself. Now this I'm talking from a creator or an individual perspective, but if you're thinking from a business perspective, the approach would be slightly different. I would suggest for a business, you should start with a software like StreamYard, and then over time set up a recording room in your office and start inviting guests. The equipment will be the same, but having a dedicated space really helps in actually churning out content. When you see that space not getting utilized, you will be motivated to create content. Plus, in a business sense, you typically have a list of priorities which you have to keep in mind, and you'll always be busy. So if a setup is ready in your studio, it does not cost a lot of money. You can have a very professional setup in about 3 to 4 lakh rupees, or about $5,000-7,000 if you're in the US. But essentially, when you set up a separate recording space, you tend to have a lot more videos, because you should set up your space such that you go there, you sit, you hit record, and you can start churning out content. If there's time being spent on setting up your space, I doubt in a business context you'll actually put out content. So I hope this helps. It gives you a framework of thinking. It's a very rough video on how you should start about thinking recording a podcast. See you all in our next video.